What is up, everybody? My name is Michael. Welcome into the Fantasy Tap. And as you can see, John's not here. This will be one of our first episodes that we do kind of by ourselves. So we previewed it last couple episodes ago. We're just trying to bring you guys as much content as possible, especially with draft season coming up and things like that. So once or so a week, John's going to be recording an episode. I'll record an episode as well. And then, of course, we're going to have our regularly scheduled podcast for you guys. But this is just to get you guys as much fantasy football content as possible. So let's just jump right into it. Today, I want to talk about some off-season trade targets. Obviously, this is going to gear more towards dynasty. But just some players, I've got 8 here that you can go after that'll help you win this year or down the road maybe. But some players that lost their value, whether it's a bad season last year, maybe somebody's come in to take their spot or is supposed to be that lead guy in their offense. But somebody I believe, or a couple guys that I believe you can go out and get and will help you win your fantasy football championship this year. I've got 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, and of course, I also have a couple honorable mentions as well. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Let's jump into the first quarterback. Guys had a major knee surgery a couple years ago during his MVP season. Just got traded to the Colts. I'm talking about Carson Wentz. He's meeting back up again with his coach Frank Reich. Also going to have a great offensive line in front of him. Now, one thing I will say is his wide receivers and his receiving options aren't going to be the best. However, were they really ever in Philly? Not really. Zach Ertz was probably the most consistent. Outside of him, not much. So you've got an aging T.Y. Hilton, 31 years old, I believe, or so around there. An up-and-coming Michael Pittman. Jack Doyle there as a tight end. Mo Alley Cox, some have some hope for him. Paris Campbell. I know John's laughing at me right now because he hasn't panned out so far due to some injuries, but I still believe in him. Hopefully he can, show some life there. But not only are his receiving options, I wouldn't say a ton better, but a little bit better than they were in Philly. His offensive line, but his run game. Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines, those 2 guys I think can really help Carson this year. Fantasy-wise, Nyheim and Jonathan Taylor can both catch the ball out of the backfield. Jonathan Taylor, very powerful running back, can also take the pressure away from him. So I don't think that, every game is going to be put into Carson Wentz's hands, which it shouldn't be. I think it's going to alleviate some of that pressure for Carson. And at the end of the day, I do think that Carson Wentz can return to some fantasy relevance. Last year, finishing as the quarterback 22. The year before that, finished as a top 12 quarterback, playing 16 games, but still wasn't his best year. And looking at his years in general, I mean, he doesn't throw too many interceptions. Last year and his rookie year were his worst. 15 last year, 14 his rookie. Obviously, I think that whole team in Philadelphia needed a fresh start, which is, kind of what we saw happen. So I think you can go out, get Carson Wentz. Maybe he's on a team who's already got their starting quarterback. I mean, and if you need somebody for the future, maybe you've got a young guy. Maybe you had Drew Brees. Even Big Ben. I mean, I really think that Carson Wentz can surprise a lot of people this year. And if he sneaks into the top 12 quarterbacks this year, it won't surprise me. I really think realistically, though, he's going to finish as a high-end quarterback too. He's going to have his up and down weeks. But I do think he can, help you get some consistency out of your quarterback. Let's move on. Let's move on to a young guy. A lot of guys are, and this is kind of a homer pick, I'll admit. A lot of guys are down on him because he had a really up and down year, got pulled multiple games for Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's Tua. He's got new offensive weapons. They're building that offensive line around him. They grabbed another tackle in this year's draft. He's cheap. I mean, he's going to be cheap. You're not going to be able to find a guy as young as he is going into his second year. Even Burrow, obviously, people have a lot more high expectations for Burrow, so you're not going to be able to get him any cheaper. But if you're looking for a young quarterback, maybe a quarterback for the future, maybe you have a Brady or a Rodgers or somebody older that you might need to replace in a couple years, go after Tua. Go after him. Get him now while you can. They put a lot of speed around him, teamed him back up with Jalen Waddle. Obviously signed Will Fuller there. Plus they have, Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki there already. So I do think that Tua can take a pretty big step forward this year and be a quarterback of the future. While you can, go get him cheap. Realistically, I don't think you're going to be paying a ton for him, maybe a second or a late first. Which I think is fine value for him. And I think he'll return on that. So go grab Tua if you can. Now let's jump over to some running backs. Two running backs here. One's kind of off the beaten path, if you will. And then one is people are just down on. So let's start with Zeke. Zeke finished as the 9th running back overall in PPR last year. He's only 25, going on 26. He didn't look the best last year. I mean, to be honest, out of shape, banged up here and there. His offensive line was injured. I mean, to say the least, it was injured. Looking at it, Lyle Collins will be returning this year. Tyron Smith, he'll be back. He did miss a few games last year in 2020. Zach Martin, he is back on track to play this year and shouldn't have any issues starting this year there for Dallas. And then they've got their young guard. There are a couple young guys. Connor Williams, he was actually ranked the 16th guard last year by PFF, and that was he's considered, underrated. So, and it is a contract year for him, so watch out. He'll have an impact. And then Tyler Biotish, great run blocker. So for those people, what I'm getting at is for those people saying that their offensive line, they're old, they're this, they're that, they lost some guys. They did. However, I do think that they'll, return to form. Maybe not as dominant as they were, but they'll definitely help out Zeke. And go get him while you can. I have Zeke in a couple leagues. I went out and got him at the end of last year because I truly do believe he's going to have a bounce back year. I see him finishing as a top 5 running back this year. I went out and got him. A lot of people on this, if you're the Austin Eckler owner, a lot of people are on this Austin Eckler train, even in PPR. I'll take Zeke. I've been offered Austin Eckler and things and guys like that, similar to that, for Zeke because a lot of people know that a lot of people are down on Zeke. So if you have an Austin Eckler, somebody like that, somebody of his caliber, see if the Zeke owner will take it. I'm telling you, I think he'll give you this year and next year very solid years. And like I said, I think he returns to a top 5 running back. Let's move over to our next running back, and that's Darrell Henderson. More of a depth piece. Originally, I was going to say Cam Akers, but everybody has jumped on that train, and he's just become way too expensive. Too expensive for the unknown. He did have a great end of the year last year. However, don't forget Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown split carries prior to Cam Akers, starting to take over the reins there. So Darrell Henderson is more of a depth piece here. I think people are forgetting about him. I mean, the only other guys behind him right now are Xavier Jones and Raymond Calais. So I don't think people really see the value in Darrell Henderson, and the fact that he's whether I don't know injuries, but whether it's an injury away, or something happening, he's one step away from being a starting running back for the Los Angeles Rams, and he's going to have those weeks. He's going to have those filler weeks. So give me that guy. Give me Cam Akers handcuff. I'll take him. I really think that Darrell Henderson is going under the radar. Last year he averaged just at 4.5 carries. And weeks 3, 4, and 7 last year, when Cam Akers wasn't there, he played well with his opportunities. I believe that week 7 was week 7 he had 15 carries. The only reason why he didn't really get into the double digits there, he didn't get in the end zone. And then week 4 was more of a Malcolm Brown week. But I really think that you're going to find some value out of Darrell Henderson. And like I said, he's super cheap, great depth piece to have, a guy that could find himself as a starting running back at some point in this season. So moving on over to the wide receivers, another year 2 guy similar to Tua, people are down on. That's Henry Ruggs. And he was the first receiver taken last year. People forget pretty quickly, that he's a young, talented wide receiver. I mean, look at him. Look at his tape at Alabama. He is dynamic. He also, weird stat, he did lead all rookie pass catchers last year in yards per catch, and that was 17.4. So a little bit of hope, I guess, if you will. But Henry Ruggs, I really think that we see a bounce back year from him. A lot of people are down. A lot of people want to see instant gratification, I guess, instant stats, put up by these rookies. And, sometimes it just doesn't happen. Darren Waller had an amazing year. And in my opinion, I know there's John Brown, and I know there's Hunter Renfrow and Brian Edwards. I know they also signed Willie Snead. Those guys don't really bug me. I think that, in my opinion, there's going to be two pass catchers, 2 main pass catchers. And I think that's going to be Darren Waller, and I think that's going to be Henry Ruggs. And I think we're going to see that next year. So if he's out there, send the Ruggs owner a message. Just see what he wants for him, what he's thinking, and go from there. So, and then our final wide receiver, it's going to be DJ Chark. Okay. I know it's not sexy. He led the Jacksonville Jaguars in total targets last year. Didn't lead them in receptions or anything like that. LaVisca did, actually, but did have 5 touchdowns, tied Keelan and LaVisca for the most on the team. I think really the biggest thing for me is DJ Chark gets a stable quarterback. We've all watched Trevor Lawrence tape. He's a freak. He's a freak is really what it comes down to. Extremely accurate and just a great quarterback all around. I think we see a lot more stability in the quarterback position, which is what we need, what he needs, DJ Chark needs. And I think we see him return to a solid wide receiver 2. Maybe even a low-end wide receiver 2, high wide receiver 3 flex player. But right now he's not being valued there. So go out, knock on that DJ Chark owner's door, see what they want, see how they feel, and make a move. I really do. Massive drop off, obviously, finishing as the 49th wide receiver compared to last year. He finishes as wide receiver 17 in PPR. I think, I mean, obviously most of his values in standard. But I do think we see some, he had eight touchdowns in 2019. I think in 5 last year. I think we see him get closer to that 8 number this year. Um, and then of course his coaching last year wasn't the best. So I think a mix of everything, DJ Chark's going to show out and really show what he can do. So go pick him up, go grab him if you can, and if you're the Chark owner, hold him, and see what happens. I have a strong feeling for DJ Chark. I think it's going to be a great year for him, bounce back year. Let's move over to tight ends. Not the sexiest position, but position you need nonetheless. First off, Tyler Higbee. I'll keep this short and sweet. We've seen him do it before. He finished as a top 8 tight end 2 years ago. No Gerald Everett. I think he really becomes the team's 3rd receiver overall. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and Tyler Higbee. I think those are going to be the main 3 guys there in that offense. Van Jefferson, will obviously get some targets, but I think that Tyler Higbee sees a lot of, his fair share of targets. And in being truthful, it doesn't take too much to be a tight end 1. And I think that's where Higbee is going to end up as a tight end 1. So if you can go out, see what you can do to get Tyler Higbee. If you're hurting at tight end, I know I am in a few leagues. Luckily, I already had Higbee. So now I'm a little more comfortable. I know he didn't have the best year last year, but I think with Everett gone, Matt Stafford being there, I think that, Higbee can really show out and get back up in that top 12, top 10 tight end area. We saw what Matt Stafford can do with TJ Hawkinson last year, tight end 5. I don't think that Tyler Higbee gets that high, but I do think we see him around that between 8 and 10, somewhere around there. I think that it's going to be a solid season for Higbee and going quite unnoticed. And then finally, our last tight end, last player that I want to talk about, Adam Troutman. And to be honest, might be a little late for him. He's a very athletic tight end coming out of Dayton. Showed glimpses last year. Yeah, I think with Jameis at the helm, it's really going to help Troutman's fantasy value. So he might be a little more expensive now because there is a lot of hype going around Troutman and Jameis being the quarterback there. So see what you can do. I mean, I think he's a great long-term tight end. I think that he'll provide value long-term this year. I could see him sneaking into the top 12 or completely blowing up or you could see him as a mid to late tight end too. If you're going for stability, if you need stability, that tight end position, I'm looking at Higbee. But if I need somebody with a lot of upside, I think Troutman has the upside. Also a lot less, competition for the targets. So I think Troutman could have the upside. And also, if you need something for the future, Troutman's a guy you can rely on. So go grab Troutman. Go grab Troutman. See what you can do there. And then a couple guys, I want to real quick honorable mentions, I guess you can call them. Gus Edwards, similar to Darrell Henderson, could find himself as his team's running back 1 at any point in the season. They did just give him a nice contract, a couple years. Darnell Mooney, everybody's hyped around him with the Jalen Ramsey stuff. So it might be a little late on that. Josh Reynolds, I know Julio is there with the Titans now. However, Julio, was injured last year. He's been injured off and on. So I do think that Josh Reynolds is going to have some relevancy, some fantasy relevancy throughout the year. And then finally, Michael Pittman, to pair it up with Carson Wentz. I think Michael Pittman's going to emerge this year. I think that he's going to have a very good year with a little bit better quarterback play. I know, Philip was good. He's all right, but um, give me Carson. Fantasy wise, I think we see Michael Pittman, have a great year, or a good year. Taking steps for the future. And like I said, a lot of people earlier about Carson, a lot of people are not on that train, skeptical on Carson, meaning, they're skeptical on Michael Pittman, the receivers there in Indy. So, but anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. It was our first one. I am very happy to do this. It was kind of nerve-wracking. I'm hoping they get better. If there's anything, a topic, whatever that you want us to talk about, let us know. Drop it in the comments if you could. Like it. Like I said, this was our first one. So I know it wasn't the best, but we will get better. I promise you, as we do more. So anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. Check out in the comments how to join our Discord. It's a fantasy football Discord. We just talk, shoot the crap, talk fantasy football, sports betting, things like that. Find you leagues, all that good stuff. Talk NFL. So Discord link will be down below. The podcast link will also be down below. We really appreciate the support. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.